one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chris, can you hear us?
Chris.
All right, I'm good. I'm going to mute it and I'll be listening.
First item on the agenda is public comment. Would anyone from the public like to make any comments? Yes, sir. Please.
Hi, how are you?
State your name and identify.
Rick Beanie. I live at 33 Greentree Drive. I'm hoping you all got an email yesterday about LTS. So I don't want to rehash what I put in the email. So hopefully you'll read it and consider what I put there. The other thing I'd like to say is what I forgot to put in the email was I'm wearing this shirt for a reason today. My son just graduated from Villanova, which is a great school. And, he was a great candidate for Villanova because not only because of his grade, not only because of the courses he took, but because of the amount of community service he did. Villanova is a great institution about community service, part of their mission, and they look at that very hard. And I do believe that really helped him get in there. So, as I said in my email, listen, I've been involved for 20 years in this town volunteering. I know the importance of that program. I've worked with hundreds of kids in that program. I know what it does for the kids, especially the kids who need a drive. Need a little kick in the pants to learn how important volunteering is. Okay, so that's what I want to come here and say. And I kind of want to listen to the reasons that people that want to get rid of it, why you would possibly want to do that. I'd love to hear that reason. So that's all.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any other public comments? Okay, we can move on to the consent agenda. Unless someone has some changes or questions, a motion to approve would be appropriate. And second, no? All those in favor?
Can I ask a question? Mr. Joe, of the food service program, is it are we changing things for next year? So
we're actually looking like it's going to be about flat. Right now I'm forecasting a favorability of $800. What you have before you guys is essentially a cash receipt, so it's cash on hand. When we do our books, we do what's called modified accrual accounting. So it doesn't include accounts payable or accounts receivable. So accounts payable is traditionally a 2-week, 4-week lag. Accounts receivable, meaning the state reimbursements that we get, there's a 2-month lag. So we're expecting another $67,000 worth of reimbursement and an additional $35,000 worth of accounts payable, which is just about flat. But year on year, we're about $37,000 more favorable than we were, but not more favorable by comparison to last
year. Right. No, it is better.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And I think, Joe, for the June meeting, we hope to have the audit result ready.
Yeah, they will actually be.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We have no correspondence in our packet to circulate. So Tom, you're up.
Sure. This is one of my favorite meetings of the year because I get to share a lot of the great work going on in our district. I will not be sharing all because that would be an extremely long meeting. You have a comprehensive board goals report in your packet this month. My goal tonight is really to provide some highlights of the great work our team has done this year. As I said, it's not meant to be all-encompassing or all-inclusive, but really just an overview of the great teaching and learning this year. I know we have a robust agenda, and I will be as brief but comprehensive as I can be. As we look, at the framework of the board goals this year, in no particular priority order, a main one was the execution and the support of the district's strategic plan. And this was year 2 of full implementation, with the plan being developed some 3 years ago now. The district strategic plan has and will continue to serve as our roadmap for aligning our work across the district. We had a great district and analysis and action team meeting this morning around vision of the graduate, and we all really left energized. When we talk about communication and alignment throughout the district, which is a key strategy in our plan, is to really align that work from the board goals that you all set to the district strategic plan, to our school growth plans, which were new this year, our administrator goals, and all the way down to the classroom level with our teacher goals. We really began that work of alignment across the district this year. All 5 of our schools, as you know, had school growth plans, and those were presented to you this past fall. Each school had academic, social, emotional goals in that plan as a baseline, and then each school had some individuality around goals tailored to their needs. School leadership teams, comprised mostly of teachers along with their school administration, met throughout the year around those school growth plans. In this spring, they did an analysis of their work this year and are beginning to frame that work for next year. Another aspect of the strategic plan is around higher order thinking skills and assessment, and we began that work this year as well. In the plan 3 years ago, it was a priority goal to identify a framework and then eventually infuse that framework into our curriculum and our lessons. This year, the VAC team did an analysis, and we decided to adopt the new Bloom's taxonomy as our district framework. This framework will be aligned with our vision of the graduate, embedded in future curriculum, and infused in lessons and units moving forward. Beyond HOTS, our district data team was engaged in other district work, such as finalizing our assessment framework, which should be finished soon. We'll be happy to share that with the board. Collecting and analyzing rubrics, which will lead to development of rubrics, more rubrics down the road, along with our vision of the graduate work in our collaboration with Great Schools Partnership, and we began to look at district dashboard metrics and how we are going to continue to measure our progress as a district. Other aspects of the strategic plan are around policy alignment and social and emotional learning. The policy committee was certainly active this year and is currently in the process of really bringing our policy manual up to date, doing a full analysis of policies to add, policies to enhance, and policies to delete, as you'll see in first reading of those tonight. Our work on social and emotional learning continues and is reflective of the board's long-held goal on ensuring our students' needs are being met. I'm going to go into more detail a little later on around SEL, as that's not only in the strategic plan, but a separate board goal. The board has had a strong priority on ensuring our team has the resources to continue to grow as professionals. You might recall two budget cycles ago, you actually increased our professional development and curriculum development lines. We hold the belief that highly trained professionals mean our students have the best opportunity at success. We enjoyed the 3rd cohort of our Teacher Leadership Academy this year, which provides a group of teachers with targeted professional development on teacher leadership. In front of you tonight is a booklet of this year's projects, which I know some of you have already thumbed through. These projects are impacting our district in positive ways and are benefiting our students. Our teachers are active in setting the direction of our school district, whether it be Teacher Leadership Academy, District Data Team, or our high-functioning Professional Learning and Evaluation Committee. We continue to focus time and energy on enhancing our PLC model, which was evident throughout the Board Goals report, as a lever for implementation of our school growth plans. Teachers working with teachers is vital to our continued success as a district. Particularly at the secondary level, our work with Great Schools Partnership on mastery-based learning at the high school and standards-based grading at the middle school, as recently as a great meeting this afternoon around a redo and retake policy. Those tough conversations around what constitutes mastery, what constitutes a grade, what does a grade actually mean when it appears on a student's report card, are conversations we're having. And of course, we began our implementation of the NGSS science standards this year as well. Our PD needs are identified by our district initiatives, but also teacher input sought through our high-functioning PLEC committee, which now includes paraprofessional representation as of this year. You can see on the slide the various PDs offered throughout the year in the areas of math, literacy, technology, and social and emotional learning. By no means is comprehensive, but gives you some idea of our work this year. We know, and the research shows, that if students' emotional and mental health needs aren't being met, their chances at academic success greatly diminish. Our work on mental health this year is vital to our mission, I mentioned some of those that work earlier, but I'll share a little bit more now. The board has had a consistent priority for our district in this area. You've heard about many of these efforts throughout the course of the year. Most notably this year was the formal launch of Second Step, which you heard about last school year, and zones of regulation at the elementary level. Last week, we had a powerful Anti-Defamation League program at Clark Lane, focusing on the importance of respect and the obligation to step up and be an ally and not a bystander. We remain very invested in the Sandy Hook Promise Foundation prevention programs, having been recognized in the state and, of course, nationally with Clark Lane's award a year ago. CLMS launched its PBIS planning this year with the formation of its Pride Committee. We formalized existing programs across the district, like the care team model at the high school, and unified activities in the district continue to flourish. Engaging families in promoting the good work happening is so important. Whether it's our coordinated marketing or designing new events for families, we never feel our work in this area will be done. We know when families are engaged in their child's education, there's more focus on learning at home. Engaging families in promoting the good work is important, as I mentioned. Promoting the district to our community is so important. We held our second annual STEAM night. Smarts Night was this past week at Clark Lane, a couple nights ago, which was a great event. And there's many other parent events throughout the course of the year that we continue to emphasize. Educating our families is also important. Many parent education events were held this year in everything from technology, math, social emotional, and of course, events to celebrate our students. Promoting the Waterford Public Schools through our district print and electronic newsletter, The Connection, our informational flyers, help us market and promote our great school system. We have a greater online presence than ever before, and we are actively engaging the local press and media to a greater extent. We launched a new mobile app for smartphones this year and a new website that is more user-friendly. Beyond that, we hosted teachers from around the world this year, showcasing our district at the International Dyslexia Conference. Certainly the outreach in Eastern Connecticut to K-8 towns not only promotes our district further, but could also be a substantial revenue source to our town. About 40% of our town population does not have children in our school district. So the outreach such as free athletic passes for our seniors and our first elected officials day in the Waterford Public Schools are integral to educating the public about our great work. Knowing where we are, what we've done, and where we're going are all necessary steps in the direction of our district. This board goal aligns perfectly with our strategic plan work and the work we're doing through the DAP team. As evidenced by the next few slides and the comprehensive board goals report in your packet, we're becoming a more data-focused district, making decisions in the best interest of students with the data, information, and evidence to back those decisions. Introducing discussion protocols to PLCs, coupled with a data cycle of inquiry, our PLCs are more focused than ever on meeting the needs of students. Our continued work and assessment continued this year in the areas of rubrics, a district data dashboard, and the development of action steps based on data sources such as SBAC, SATs, MAP, and the next generation accountability metrics. School growth plans are being responsive to students' needs. The implementation of our online district data warehouse is underway. Administration will be trained this summer and rolled out to teaching staff with training next school year. Targeting our intervention programs to students saw much more focus this year. Teachers met individually prior to SBAC administration and discussed strengths, areas of focus, and goals with their students. The administrative team continued our instructional walkthroughs as part of our work on teaching and learning, and multiple data points are being used to guide instructional decisions. Our work as a district is not possible without the resources to support that work. Advocating for our budget and educating the public is a year-round effort. We also know that resources are finite, and to that end, we vigorously analyze existing resources, search for efficiency, and collaborate with our town departments and throughout our region to stretch the dollar. Continued collaboration with our town and strengthening collaborative relationships with other towns to achieve efficiency remains a priority. We constantly evaluate resources and make decisions based on needs and not wants. Energy is one of the major drivers of our budget, so projects like the Clark Lane gas conversion projects do save us real dollars each year. We continue to pursue grant monies because we know that's vital to our commitment to provide a full education to our students. We've increased our grant acquisition by 123% in just 3 years. Our grants cover the spectrum from individual teacher grants to grants like Title IV, which benefit the entire district. For example, this summer we're going to be able to offer a STEM boot camp at the high school for this year's 8th graders as they enter 9th grade due to Title IV funding. It's always nice to be recognized by others for the good work as validation for our staff and our students' efforts. We've had some tremendous highlights this year. The next couple of slides is by no means comprehensive, but offers a glimpse into much of the recognition our staff, students, and district experienced this year. Our students continue to perform at high levels in academics, athletics, activities, and just as good people and good citizens. This past year, we implemented the Seal of Biliteracy program, and that opportunity has expanded even more this year. 35 students will receive the Seal of Biliteracy on their diploma this year for languages such as Spanish, Urdu, Latin, Tagalog, and Mandarin. This is a state program that we are partaking in. Many students were inducted into honor societies across the district. Students received recognition for their work in history, music, and we had a Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship Foundation winner this year for a $20,000 scholarship for college. Beyond that, we have an elementary student at Quaker Hill who recently won a statewide essay contest and will be personally awarded by Representative Joe Courtney in a couple of weeks at Quaker Hill. We had a youngster from Great Neck make the National Invention Convention competition, and CLMS had a student place 4th in the statewide Geography Day, amongst just many of the various achievements. Staff, we have an incredibly dedicated staff who work hard each day, and we recognize we have some of the best professionals anywhere. Many of our staff were honored for statewide achievements as well. 4 of our teachers, as I mentioned before, received Fund for Teacher grants to travel around the world this summer for experiences that will benefit our students. Grade 2 teacher at Great Neck, Linda Braley, was named the Connecticut PTA Teacher of the Year. 2 of our teachers at Oswegatchie had the opportunity to co-author a national math school textbook, which is wonderful and pretty neat. Across the schools in the district, CLMS was named as a statewide champion school for their unified programs. We launched Latin at the middle school as well, and our high school received high commendations on the first phase of the NEASC reaccreditation process. As a district, we made progress in 13 of the 18 next generation accountability areas. SBAC and SATs continue to show steady progress. And there were numerous athletics, extracurricular achievements, as you're all well aware of. Too numerous to mention here, but that continue to reflect well on our district. Part of our mission is to give back and assist those in need. Sometimes those in need are our very own students and their families. From honoring our veterans to helping those in need around the holidays to bringing folks into our schools, we are providing those around us the opportunity for a better life in so many ways. Our continued relationship with the Waterford Youth and Family Services, their new title, and the Waterford Police Department through mentoring programs allow us to bring more resources to our kids by our mere presence in the community. We recognize that education extends beyond the 4 walls of our schools and that providing learning opportunities in the region is important. So our collaboration with business and industry continues to expand with partners like the Eugene O'Neill Theater we talked about during the budget process, a manufacturing pipeline initiative underway with Electric Boat and the Eastern Workforce Investment Board, and a blossoming relationship with diverse partners of business here in Waterford that will allow internships to take place next year. Beyond that, music, many mentoring programs I mentioned, memory project. We're currently doing an art project out at Avery Point for a cognitive garden. that will appeal to the senses, and our student work will be displayed there as well. I thank our entire Waterford Public Schools team for their hard work. Tonight is just a snapshot of all that is happening. Our students and staff continue to work hard each day, and there's high-quality teaching and learning occurring. On behalf of the Waterford team, I thank the board for their continued leadership, support, and setting the course forward for the district. We're incredibly fortunate to have an involved and focused board. As the year comes to a close in the next couple of weeks, I thank our parents, our families, and our community for being engaged and trusting us to do the best we can for their children. It's been another great year. We hope for a great finish.
Thank you, Tom. Any comments or questions from the board? Tom, anything under item D?
I do have a couple other announcements. I want to thank Quaker Hill and Oswegatchie for the great artwork in the room and in the hallway this month. We just received word today that we have been awarded a $6,000 grant by the Connecticut State Department of Education to support our pre-K special ed program. Great news. Again, these are things you don't get unless you apply, so that's great. A couple other announcements. I mentioned the Quaker Hill 5th grader, Zaya Haglund, for winning a statewide essay contest. May 29th, Representative Courtney will be here. Jada Collins, a grade 5 student at Great Neck, will be going to the National Invention Convention program in Dearborn, Michigan. We have many end-of-year activities happening. This past Monday, a wonderful music concert at Waterford High. You heard about Quaker Hill Marine Science Day program. That's next Tuesday. How's the weather looking, Mr. D?
So far so good. I hope you didn't jinx it.
We have underclassmen awards at Waterford High next Wednesday. Senior awards June 5th. Our Avery Point graduation June 6th. Our
June 4th for the senior award.
Thank you.
Making
sure the high school team is paying attention. Our 5th grade promotions, of course, 8th grade promotion on the 13th, high school graduation on the 14th. Again, hoping for good weather all around. Our sports teams are engaged as recently as now in ECC competitions, and many will see state tournament play action. I know Caroline has sent out an RSVP list. We want to make sure you're recognized when you're in attendance, so please keep us informed of that. Finally, I just want to mention that I mentioned earlier the Professional Learning and Evaluation Committee of the district. Part of their responsibility is to also periodically review our evaluation plan for teachers and administrators, and some of those folks on that committee are in the room tonight. And the Evaluation Committee is recommending several changes as we move forward into next year for our teacher evaluation plan. So the process will be the board is informed tonight. We will send our plan for approval to the state. If we get approval from the state, we will bring it back to the board at the August meeting for our board to formally adopt that. The changes will include the addition of a we call it a full comprehensive observation for tenured teachers, even at the effective and highly effective level. Right now, it consists of minis. And the feedback from the committee and principals was that even as tenured teachers, a full period or a full lesson observation that includes a post-conference and a pre-conference would be beneficial. So we're moving every third year tenured teachers, even if they're rated highly effective or effective, will have a formal pre-observation and post-conference. That is a change from just focusing on minis. The state has updated the Common Core of Teaching, or the Connecticut Common Core of Teaching rubric from 2014 to 2017. We're formally adopting the 2017 rubric, and we made some changes to the language for the support for non-tenured teachers that are in need of some assistance. So we made some tweaks on language there. So again, we'll be sending that to the state. They'll approve, or they'll tell us, no, you need to make some changes, and once it's formally approved by them, it comes back to you for formal adoption. We hope for the August Board of Ed meeting. Unless there's questions, that concludes the superintendent's report for tonight.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions for Tom?
So Tom, we don't see that plan before it goes to the state?
We can certainly include it in tomorrow's Friday note.
Okay, yeah, that would be great.
Sure.
To see. And then, is that a marked copy so we can see?
It is, it's track changes, exactly.
Thank you.
Yep.
That'd be helpful.
Anyone else? Okay, 5A, this would be reports from our own board committees. Marshall policy, I know we're going to have a more substantive discussion on the new business, but...
The policy committee met on May 13th with all members present, and we again discussed graduation requirements for the Standards of Proficiency Policy 6146 and the new graduation requirement policy 5021. Standards, LTS, hours, and the capstone requirements were discussed with changes made to include the understanding of the democratic process, free speech, tolerance of different opinions, and political civility, as well as including a statement on LTS hours encouraging volunteerism. Please note, the motion to move this policy to the full board was incorrect in a minute and will be corrected at our next meeting. Mr. Merriman actually voted against, and Mr. Benoki voted in favor, with Ms. Goggin and myself to move this policy forward. We also reviewed over 100 policies for deletion because they were no longer statutorily required, covered by other policies, town charter, state laws, and contract law, or they were incorporated into other policies, and moved policy 9131 bylaws to the full board.
Thank you, Marcia. Do we have any other board committees reporting tonight? Okay.
We had an Atlantic broadband meeting. We just had re-elected the officers, treasurer again.
So that would be a board liaison.
Sorry.
That's all right. Chris, anything from Learn?
Yeah, we interviewed for the superintendent, and we have found, we finalized a candidate for the superintendent, and we're going to be making an offer this week. So Dr. Holly will be retiring, and Tom, you probably got an email about a superintendent breakfast or function. I think it's on the 24th or 25th, or no, it's June 1st, I think. You'll see that where you and I have to go to some breakfast. But there are a lot of good candidates for each line superintendent participating, and that's that.
Thank you, Chris. Jody, anything?
Yes, I do. The youth service bureau has been busy registering children for Camp Dash, and as you know, each week has a different theme, and the children don't have to go every week. They can pick and choose, so a lot of extra paperwork, but some of the topics that I told you about last month, I think, the kids are going to really like. And also, the children that are going to Summer Academy have the opportunity to go to Camp Dash when they're finished with their schoolwork. They're also offering an enrichment in the morning for students. The parents and the teachers recommend that some of the students going to Camp Dash need some enrichment in reading or math or whatever. They can use the computer lab at Park Lane. So that'll be nice for them. I was lucky enough to be able to attend the health fair at Park Lane last week. And I was really, really impressed with the students. They were great. They were interested in some of the topics that we had. Basically about emotional well-being and mental health. We had several presenters there. Officer Wayne was there from the police department. And I really love the idea that the kids are getting to know some of the policemen in our town. And he has a great rapport with a lot of the Park Lane kids, so I'm happy to see that. The Brian Daigle Foundation was there. Bank of America was there. And I hope we can do it again next year. And Jim was so kind, showing everybody around, and it was really a nice day. And I hope the children got a lot out of it. Just one more thing, I just want to remind everybody that Youth Service Bureau now has the food locker, and over the summer they don't get that many donations. So if anybody wants to donate some cereal or peanut butter and jelly or whatever, because families still need help, during the summer. But it's working out. The food locker is working out very well there.
Thank you, Jody.
You're welcome.
Any liaisons to this board have anything to report or tell us about?
Just one comment that our high school liaisons are at Honor Society tonight. Again, been here, so we will get them here in the fall, but I wanted to mention, I know our high school team also needs to get there at some point as well.
Okay, that'll lead us to new business. First item, 6A, discussion and possible action rate, tuition rates for the 2019-2020 school year. Tom.
Sure, this tuition rate is the rate, this particular item, 6A, is the rate that out-of-town non-residents would pay. There's a different rate for our partnership districts, but this is if somebody in one of those, in another town wanted to send their child here, this item is that rate.
Any questions for Jody?
Tom, I just got a question on the page where it has all the breakdown. Is that, these are for out-of-town or is not our children?
Correct. So there's two things in your packet. There's the flat general tuition rate, which
Right, on
is,
the back
I don't
page.
have it memorized, 16,000 something.
380.
380. And then there's a grid for special education and other related services. Those are the rates that out-of-town residents would pay. The special ed one is item 6C.
Yeah.
6A is simply that 16,380 number for non-resident tuition.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion?
So, does this as a regulation, do we vote on that, Chair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Someone care to make a motion to approve the non-resident student tuition rates for the next school year?
I'd like to make a motion that the Waterford Board of Education approve and adopt non-resident student tuition rates for the 2019-20 school year as proposed.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 6B, discussion and possible action on tuition rates for the K-F partnership for the 19-20 school year.
This tuition rate would be for our partnership districts of Norwich and Basra at this point, which are agreements that both parties have approved. Franklin has approved, but we just don't have a signed agreement with them yet. But this would apply to those 2 and potentially 3 districts. This is just base tuition. Anything above and beyond that, as the agreements say, would be billed separately through the grid, which is 6C.
Any questions? Anyone care to make a motion?
I'll make that motion. I'd like to move that the Waterford Board of Education approve and adopt the tuition rate of $12,012 for K-8 partnership for the 2019-20 school year as proposed.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved unanimously. C, discussion and possible action on special education tuition rates.
This is the grid. Again, this is for students who have an identification, and it's services billed beyond the base tuition in either 6A or 6B.
Any questions? Jody?
I just have a question. The students that are expelled, that are being taught over use of this bureau, do they fall under special ed or are they a whole different category?
They are at our cost. We hire a tutor
Right.
for them, and that's in our general budget. So.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All in favor, make the motion. Marcia?
I'd like to move that the Waterford Board of Education approve and adopt the special education tuition rates for the non-resident students and the K-8 district for the 2019-20 school year as proposed.
Amanda with the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 6B, review and possible action for textbook instructional materials to support the 9 through 12 English curriculum.
Certainly, if there's any questions, Craig and I can answer.
Any questions?
Just to verify, at our last meeting, this is not a complete book list, right?
No.
There's other books that will supplement the
Correct.
curriculum we
So
looked at?
the books that have already been approved, we're not getting rid of, we're
Right.
just continuing to use.
Okay.
And then based upon the curriculum, this will be the new books to fold into that library collection.
Jody?
Just a comment. I really like the course topics And I think I said at the last meeting, I'm repeating myself, but I think you're really going to get more students from these meetings because of the choices that you make now.
The Waterford Board of Education approves and adopts the instructional resources to support the grades 9 through 12 English curriculum as presented.
Jody with a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 6B, review and possible action, textbook, instructional materials to support the PK through 12 music curriculum. The board have any comments or questions? Go ahead.
I'd like to move that the Waterford Board of Education approves and adopts the instructional resources to support the grades PK through 12 music curriculum as presented.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 6F, review and possible action rate textbook instructional materials to support the mathematics and music exploring the connections course. Comments or questions? Jody?
I love the idea. I think this course is going to be really, really good for students that like music. And if you can combine music and the math, I think that's a win-win situation. So can I make the motion?
No.
Before motion, do we have a count for how many kids are enrolled in this course? for next
Andre,
year?
do we have a projected or a draft count for how many students might be electing the math and music course next year or not?
It looks like we'll have enough to run one full section, so I can't give you an exact number, but the ballpark is around 20-ish.
Wow.
Between 20 and 25, we believe.
That's great.
And those numbers always fluctuate a little bit over the summer, but yeah, we're very excited about the interest it's generated right away.
Great. Thank you, Andre.
I would like to move that the Waterford Board of Education approves and adopts the instructional resources to support the mathematics and music exploring the connections course as presented.
Second, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 6G, review and possible action rate grades 6 through 8 math textbooks, instructional materials to support the math curriculum. Questions or comments? Jody?
Comment, I took the workbooks home. It took me a while to go through them, but I was really impressed with a lot of the topics, and I like the way they incorporated cooking and measuring and things like that in there. And I asked Tom before the meeting, I was just a little concerned they'd be able to finish all the workbooks, during the school year because there was a lot of material, but Tom said they're going to do it.
I'd like to move that the Waterford Board of Education approve and adopt the grades 6 through 8 math textbooks and instructional materials to support the math curriculum as presented.
There's a second? Amanda? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 6H, review and possible action rate textbook, instructional materials to support the grades 6 through 12 world language curriculum revisions. Questions or comments from the board?
Motion. I'm going to get you a few sheets. That the Waterford Board of Education approves and adopts the textbooks and instructional materials to support the grades 6 through 12 world language curriculum revisions as presented.
Second. Jody? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I, first reading of policy 6146, graduation requirements, Fireball 913-2. Deletion policy.
So, the high school graduation requirement just globally have changed by the state of Connecticut for the graduating class of 2023. So that's our current 8th graders. The big changes are there's a little more flexibility in the attainment of the humanities and the STEM, so you'll see them clustered together. Our high school committee that worked on this felt strongly to still kind of list out that we still want 4 English courses, 3.5 social studies courses, but we'll allow like 1.5 into the humanities. Similarly, with math, we still want 3 math courses, 3 science courses, but then 3 can be any mixture of the STEM. What's new is there will be an additional requirement to have another half credit of health. So right now we have 1 health teacher at the high school that is at max capacity teaching all of our 10th graders. So because our physical education teachers are certified to teach health as well, we are going to be piloting a 9th grade wellness course next year that will satisfy the health requirement. And then we'll have 10th grade PE for a semester, and then students will have to take a PE elective to get their other PE credit. The arts and vocational ed haven't changed. There is a new requirement for all students for the class of 2023 to have 1 year of world language. So that's new. And then there's open electives for 2.5 and a capstone project. So that is what's a culminating research project that students will be demonstrating their overall high school competencies with. The thought would be that we would be moving, as you heard from the last meeting, our 9th grade freshman seminar to this 11th grade capstone research preparation course to then allow students in their junior and ultimately senior year to complete that research requirement, which will have really a number of requisite hours beyond this normal classroom to complete and then present to the capstone team. And so that takes our current credits from 25 to 26 for the graduating class of 2023. So the policy before you, we have realigned the number. So really when we're talking around this policy, it really should be under what students have to do rather than instruction. So we've moved it out of the instructional policy to the student policy, and we have the front part of the policy saying what are the current graduating requirements, which aren't changing, 19 to 22, and then the new requirements, 20 to 23. And as Marcia indicated earlier, the policy subcommittee is making the learning through service requirement optional and not setting a number of requisite hours. So that's what's in the policy. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Board members, yeah.
This policy wasn't created by the policy committee though, right? Wasn't it the recommendations from the high school staff and working with administrators? Thank you.
Yeah, so the notion that we had to comport to the law was known by the high school. The high school had a team working on it. The high school then drafted up this policy. This policy has changed from the original recommendations. I'll go into that in a moment. After it was drafted by the committee, it was shared at the department meeting so that the whole school had an understanding of this and was able to bring it back to their requisite departments. The initial proposal was that because the capstone projects would take some time after the classroom, outside of the classroom, to lower the learning through service requirements from 80 to 40, knowing that the capstone would be many more hours more than 40. So we're trying to strike the balance in there. The policy subcommittee meeting altered it to the language I had just read earlier.
So the policy committee took the recommendation and then reduced LTS to 0.
That is correct.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out what happened along the way.
The requirements
Right.
for graduation.
No, I know that. So here's my next question. Is the initial creation of the 26 credits And the capstone in that, does that come from the discussions that Tom alluded to with what a graduate of the high school would look like, and does it conform more with the accreditation process?
Yeah, so they're two separate things, but they do sort of they sort of go along. So if I can, the state legislature actually passed what they would deem as high school graduation requirements, which are there has to be 9 credits in the humanities, 9 credits in STEM, 2 credits in PE and health, 1 credit in world language, a capstone or culminating research project. So that was dictated state law.
Wow.
We had to rise to the state law on that, and the plus up was the half credit of health, world language is a requirement, and the capstone as a credit. And so that's why we've elevated our credits from 20 to 25 to 26. The vision of a graduate, the transferable skills that Tom said earlier was being worked on at the high school level and through the DAT team is really to conform with NEASC accreditation, and in that we boil down what we want as the essential standards for all kids, and the plan would be to have that embedded into rubrics along the pre-K to 12 continuum, so that you're measuring not only the content standards but those other skills that we're deeming important, and that there'll be a different level of complexity with curricular templates in the future to rise to the NEASC new standards as well. So in play, I guess in a overall lengthy summary, is state law requirements plus a new NEASC requirements, and so the two bodies of work are in play, but what's in front of you tonight is really predominantly because of the state law.
Okay. Thank you. That was a very good description. I was confused when I was reading the policy. I didn't know if that was just based on what we as a district want or what the state wants.
Jody?
Well, I'm really disappointed that we're not keeping the 80 hours of community service from there, because my vision of a graduate is giving back to the community. And when you divide the 80 hours amongst 4 years, I mean, I don't really think it's that much of a hardship. You know, I don't know what the curriculum or, the agenda is for the capstone project and how much, and, how much work that's going to take. But, as Rick had said, I mean, so many of our students, it helps them get into college, because of our community service. And I'm really surprised and disappointed with NEASC, because they were so impressed with our learning through service requirement 2 NEASC evaluations ago. And they said that they were really, really pleased and impressed with us adding that to our high school graduation requirement. And I don't know, I would like to see it kept in.
Here's just a respectful point of order. NEASC didn't have anything to do with the LTS inclusion or exclusion.
Right, but they were impressed with it when they came and visited us.
So that is correct.
I thought maybe that they. I mean, I would assume they would require. They would require it at all the high schools. But I think it's good to get back to the community. But that's just my opinion.
Great.
I guess I'll just repeat some of what I said at the committee meeting. Unfortunately, I missed the first meeting when this was discussed, but we talked about a 1 credit class, albeit, pretty intensive 1 credit. But I think the removal of the requirement, you run the risk of hurting some programs in town too. Even if you say it's optional, I think that the hours are going to drop right off the table. You look at something like Camp Dash that really relies on volunteers in their hours. And that's just a real concern. And I've been involved with volunteering, just because my role is such an example to me of what that means, how good that is to do. So, it's just a real concern, and even more so that the staff even recommended 40 hours as something reasonable. The kids should be overtaxed, but I think that's an important aspect of life to learn how to give of yourself to others. That we should require it, and it makes me feel like we're kind of dropping the bar, lowering the bar for the kids. I understand it's a struggle for some people. We've talked about that before. But I feel like some of the people that complain and struggle are going to complain and struggle no matter what. Honestly. I think with LTF, I've heard some of the complaints, and maybe there's things to be looked at, but I think you have to sometimes look at the complaints and see where they're coming from, and do they have, what kind of merit do they have? Do people just complain that they don't like the paperwork and all this? Well, we could look at that. But that's why I kind of feel so strongly against taking it out as a requirement, because I just feel we're just kind of lowering the bar and setting our expectations a little lower, even though capstone is a significant item.
I just have a question, well actually twofold, and forgive me if I probably missed a meeting here about the capstone. So what would it be the equivalent of, what are they needing to do throughout the 4 years? And I just asked this question because one of my children takes Latin, and in order to get a credit for honors for the whole year, she's doing this intense program as a 9th grader right now, doing a video and movies, and we're driving all over the state to look for Latin architecture and all this other stuff. But anyway, she's doing it, I love it, she's very into it. Is it something similar to that? Is it almost like a mini thesis statement kind of a thing? And realistically, what are we looking at?
Yeah, I think you're on the right track. So, capstone is meant to be a culminating project that the student demonstrates that they've met the vision of the graduate standards. That might look like, and this is not final, communicate effectively for a variety of audiences might be an example of a vision of the graduate standards. It could be 5 or 6 standards with indicators. Think creatively and critically. Be able to access evidence, access information, and present an argument. Those are some examples. So the capstone project, designed by the student, and obviously with faculty advisor input, is meant to be a significant and rigorous culminating project. We say culminating, it will be started junior year. Some fast-track students are going to finish that junior year because they don't want to deal with it senior year. Other students will go into senior year, and different districts do it different ways. Through a lot of discussion, we chose junior year because the last thing we want to see happen is if we had it senior year, a student not be able to graduate because they ran out of time, they dropped the ball. So by moving to junior year, we think over 20 months of school, that's a realistic timeline. With that said, it will be introduced to the students as a concept day 1 freshman year. You said, what does it really look like? The short answer is we're not sure because we're still designing it, as is every high school in Connecticut. The idea of a mini thesis, I think, gives you an understanding. When you think about a college thesis, I don't think we're quite at that level, but it's more than a big project they might do in a regular class. It's somewhere in between that continuum. It's meant to be really designed based on student interest, and I can share a link. In my hometown, they just kicked out an email. It's been an optional project where I live, and they just kicked out an email about some sample projects that kids are presenting, so I'd be happy to share that with the board. Craig, I don't know if you have anything to add on that?
I think you captured it unless there's further questions by the board.
We anticipate that obviously we'll have the biggest component being academic, the vision of the graduate. We do anticipate that most, if not all, projects will have implications for outside the school, i.e., depending on the focus of the project, a community, business, industry connection outside the school.
Just to add to that, there will be a written component, a video component probably, and a presentation component.
I think that is safe to say.
I'd just like to add, I think one of the reasons I felt so strongly about deleting the 40-hour suggestion from the high school was that I see a lot of students that don't have the parental support or family support that other students have. And when I asked about if we ever had a student who didn't walk for graduation because of learning service hours, there actually has been a student who did not walk in their graduation because they were short of service hours. In today's day and age, I think that's a real failure on our part. And when I asked the principal on May 13th, how are we doing with this year's senior class, 13% have not met their goal. And that was May 13th. Today, give me the numbers again, Tom?
I think we're at under watch for, we're talking seniors now, about a dozen students. 2 are under highly supervised guidance to get it done, but about a dozen students, give or take, are going down to the wire.
And that's without the capstone. That's without the capstone. If you put the capstone in there, and these kids don't have the support of their families and other people to help them understand the importance of this, and it's a graduation requirement, they're not going to get a diploma. Never mind not walk. I think that's a failure on our part. I happen to be a very civic-minded person who believes in volunteering all the time. I can't tell you the number of hours I volunteer. But I cannot see mandating volunteering and then having the implications of that mandating become a lifelong scar on that student. I just can't.
To follow up with that, I think you really have to understand what the capstone is. So I documented some of what Tom sent. I went on UConn's website and got some other things. But to follow up with what Marcia said, the rigor and the effort required by the student to fulfill this capstone is immense. And I feel it's my job here to support all students, not just the students that are advantaged and have cars and have parents that can take them to all these facilities. A part of the capstone is volunteering. 1/3 of it is your civic responsibility. So those volunteer projects are being encouraged to incorporate within the capstone. So for people that think kids are just going to drop off their volunteerism, I don't see that, because it is integrated into this program. And if it does, then our kids are just volunteering because they have to. And that's not volunteering. And if we really want our students to be civic-minded and to take this seriously, I think we have to give them the opportunity to do that and not make it so hard. That's my opinion.
I think Amanda has her hand up first.
Yeah, so having a lot of kids who've already gone through the process, and also being someone who provides volunteer opportunities for children, I personally have heard from students, not parents, but students, who have said, boy, I would have never worked with special ed children if I hadn't come and done this. I would have never worked with, were they thrilled about it? Not necessarily at the get-go, but we all found ways. I'm sad to hear that they're, take the community to help people out, but I'm sad to hear that either people who offered volunteer opportunities in the community either weren't aware or didn't know that people didn't have rides or different things like that. I personally don't think 40 hours is an astronomical amount, both of my ninth graders already have over 80 hours right now as it stands, and I know several other people who do also, and just my community of parents that I know, who I'm aware of in years past as well, as I've had 2012 graduates onward, we all work together to help each other out and carpool and bring it together, and there are some kids that have gone into careers they never would have thought of, and I know for a fact that it was because they volunteered somewhere in our community, or not even in our community, in other communities, in certain areas that they never even thought twice about. So that's just kind of my 2 cents worth as far as that's concerned. I realized that there were logistic kind of things that Craig had mentioned, that other things, there's a lot of great online applications that are free or very cost effective to log the information in. Maybe it could be part of the mandatory civics class. Have you gotten your 10 hours, 40 hours, 20 hours, whatever? But while there were some kids that grumbled about it, it was a valuable experience for them. So.
Thank you.
I actually have always been a capstone supporter, so I get it. I've pushed for it in districts I've been in. So I think it's wonderful that we're putting that in. Having said that, I still I think that capstone starts in the junior year, and if you look at student volunteers, the majority of them do it in their freshman and sophomore year before they get jobs and keys to a car. So that's why I think we should keep in some volunteerism requirements for the freshman and sophomore year. So instead of saying maybe senior year, the 40, at the end of the sophomore year, 40. And see if we can get those kids. It might also help inform their capstone project. But I didn't have that data. I mean, that's worrisome data, that we have kids that, and that's for the full-time learning service coordinator that's hounding them, I hope.
I will tell you, to be accurate, in my 4 years here, there's only been one student who ultimately didn't make it.
Right,
Yeah.
but still too many.
That's on a student. I got a pass now, okay.
Chris, you want to speak on this issue? Chris?
No, I'm here.
He is muted us. Robert, he muted us.
It's such a controversial topic. I can see both sides of it. Kids aren't going to want to do LTS hours, but it's a way to teach them about being responsible and doing things for the community. So I can see both sides of the coin. I'm kind of split down the middle, if that makes sense. So that's what I have to say for now. But I'd like to see how many of those kids, someone said about looking at the data, I'd like to see how many of those kids are going back and looking at those places that they did LTS hours for. So I said this, I think, last month, that the kids going to the VFW, if there's 50 kids who are going to the VFW to do community service hours, are 30 of them going to work after? Like, what's the follow-up? You do graduate follow-up surveys. What's the follow-up? What's the data look like? And maybe it doesn't have to be so many hours. So that's, I don't know, that's kind of my thought.
Thank you, Chris.
Two things. First, I kind of agree with Nim in that maybe we look at freshmen and sophomores having a community service requirement prior to doing the capstone. But I also wanted to shift over to the number of credits that are required. So we're moving from 24 to 26. The state's requiring 25. I'm very curious and would like to see some data on how many of our kids graduate with 24 or 25 credits. Is 26 going to put kids in jeopardy of not graduating?
Yeah, so Deb, we really modeled that, and the vast majority of our kids exceed our current graduation requirements. And so that was a lot of in-depth conversation that I had with Andre, and I'm sure he's asked guidance to model that. We do feel this won't be an oversome burden for kids, even though it's a new credit, just because of the opportunities in here with how they can arrive at credits with the different electives, and the capstone kind of being half a credit within the semester and half a credit with that external component.
that was one of the, I don't mean to cut you off, that was one of the first questions when I first saw the draft, Craig working with the high school, was how many kids are we going to be boxing out by going to 26? Our average graduates with 27 credits now in our current
because
system.
of the block.
So you have the ability, right, some are below that and some are above, obviously.
And some students lose credit for grades and some students lose credit for attendance.
Yeah.
And right now, the minimum credits only add up to 25 and a half. So I don't know if you're adjusting that too. It's 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 6. So I don't know if that would be a change as far as what constitutes a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior.
Could you say that again?
So right now, if you look, it's a minimum requirement freshman, sophomore, junior year of 6.5 credits and then 6 credits senior year. So if you took the minimum, you'd only get to 25 and a half.
We got to change the minimum.
Okay. That's not what I saw. I'm obviously wrong.
7, 6.5.
I just know firsthand about Camp Dash and with the 8th graders that volunteer and get community learning through service hours, they come back and they get jobs as counselors when they're juniors and seniors, junior counselors. So, I mean, they do come back and they do enjoy working with the kids. I mean, even the young adults that are working there full time, they started out volunteering at Youth Service Bureau. I just feel our community is so good to us. With our budget, I mean, we're so lucky. We haven't had any problems at all with it. And I just think it's like 40% of our population are senior citizens. I'm one of them. I just think it's really good for us to have our students help out in the community.
This is a first reading, so we're not going to act on this. I think we've heard some good arguments both sides of the issue. We'll have to think about it. I think everyone wants the best for our students and for the community. Marcia.
I just wanted to add one more thing. After our policy meeting, I was thinking of how we could work in some learning through service hours. And I think what we need to do, especially for those kids who don't have family support, is to mandate it. And I always say that we think alike. That, like, maybe at the end of freshman year, you have to have 15 service hours completed. And somebody should be checking that. And then, so we've got it nipped in the bud in freshman year. And then sophomore year, you need to have 15. And the real thing that bothers me is junior year, besides this capstone that has a tremendous amount of volunteering in it, there's a huge academic load. A lot of the kids are deciding what they're going to do for their futures with colleges and applications and all. Junior year is a heck of a year to have all that in there. And so I think you're going to have quite a few that are bringing it over to senior year. So I'd almost like all their learning through service hours to be done by sophomore year, and be as I was thinking 30. That was my compromise number. But have it data that we can see this and track, so that this kid, we know we better get on his case and see or her case and see what's going on there and help them out. It's going to take, we have mentors for the capstone project, but the other thing is that sometimes the learning through service gives them an indication of what they might want to do for their capstone. So, I see that side too. But I think junior year and that senior year is kind of, they're kind of on a coasting there, so they might be able to fit maybe 5 hours in or something, but that junior year is going to be tremendous, a tremendous burden, and I think a lot of kids are going to end up doing some of their capstone in senior year. And I like the idea that it's in the junior year only because then it gives them a cushion in case they don't make it.
I like what Mom said. It sounds great. Have this be done by, I already have so many traders who have contacted me.
Those are the ages of the kids that are working.
Can we, you can, let me know.
Yeah, and if it could be an academic requirement instead of a graduation requirement, then we hit it all.
I have to tell you, it's hard to find adult volunteers. Yeah, all volunteers are hard to find these days. You know, the PTAs are hurting, all the different organizations, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, all that sort of stuff are really hurting for volunteers. And it is a good concept to come, but it's just, in my opinion, it's your civic responsibility to be a volunteer. All of us here are volunteers.
Any other comments?
I also think if we shift to younger, we probably also need to look at the program because we are talking about children that can't drive.
Go ahead. I think some of these kids, I think there are opportunities within the school, even though it might say not great opportunities, but we opportunity to get some hours for kids that don't have the support outside the school and things like that. And I think some of the discussion, kind of what I was getting at about this being one credit, is we put all that focus on the 1 year and just threw out the other 3 years that no service, so this doesn't make any sense. Especially like Jody was saying, and I know Rick knows this too, from when we do the sports programs, we rely on that help. Because we don't volunteer, and it's just pretty shaky about it. And it's the same 4 or 5 people doing all these programs, and we rely on the kids.
I would like, since we aren't voting on it tonight, thank goodness, if we could have the data that Deb is saying about
the number of credits kids
that
are
would be very
graduating.
helpful.
We'll do a 3-year look back.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yep.
Not just the average, but the actual count.
Yeah.
And I've asked some capstone examples so that we all can see exactly what's entailed as a part of understand. I know, but yeah.
We're gonna reach out to some districts and see if they can redact or get kids permission.
I agree with that.
I'd also like to see, and it might be hard to find this, but those schools, because everybody in Connecticut now is going to be mandated to do capstone.
Right.
Are they planning on are they at least planning, even if we don't have the real data yet, but are they proposing to their board Marine service hours including the capstone or just the capstone? And what are they, like the hours?
We'll do our best.
I know.
Yeah,
There's not a lot that make those decisions. The district I work in does not require service hours.
For capstone or
Period.
And that's piece one.
how long ago? Sorry, I'll ask you those questions. It wasn't part of this new state.
Never have.
You guys probably don't know what the kind of volunteer hours are anyway.
Track. No, we don't track it. I would say that there are certainly some students that are highly motivated by college applications and others that are less.
Any other discussion? Okay. If there's none, then we need to have a motion to go into executive session.
I don't know if you want to get comments on bylaws or deletion policies.
No one has any comments, do I?
Yes.
Go ahead. What are your comments or questions on the deletion or on bylaw 9132?
The only thing that changed is the form.
Yeah. Good idea.
Yeah. How about executive session?
Good to go.
Okay, and that would be to invite Mr. Giard, Mr. Powers, and Mr. Mancini for the purpose of discussion concerning an agreement between the Waterford Board of Education and the Waterford Board of Education Secretary's Correction Assistant United Public Service Employee Agreement. The contract term is July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2021. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. We'll give a few minutes for the room to clear and then we'll
Can I take a